live. I just had an amazing, mind-blowing Akashic reading. Absolutely mind-blowing. I've never seen anything like it before. This person is an amazing divine masculine. All of his incarnation that were shown to me were all starseed incarnations on other planets. From Pleiadian to Andromedan, all starseed incarnations on other planets. From Pleiadian to Andromedan, some incredible knowledge came through, which I've never heard before. And I'm going to just give you, I'm not going to give you all of it because I'm writing a book on that. But suffice it to say, there's a theme. Anyway, I'm going to wait till more people get on before I start talking because people are going to ask me what the hell I'm talking about, and I'd rather not repeat myself, but I'm waiting. If you could be so kind as to share the live, that'd be awesome, if you can. If not, I'll just record it real quick, and then I'll upload it when I'm done. But, all right, so if you could share the live. So I'm gonna like pretty much talk about some of the highlights that I thought were amazing. Okay? That I thought were mind-blowing. Stuff I've never heard before. Now, the hybridization of our human race is probably one of the most important breakthroughs in our soul's evolution. In the higher dimensions, when I mean high, I mean, and I don't give a fuck who says there aren't any high dimensions. I'm talking about 20th dimension, 23rd dimensions. There is a high level of hive consciousness, hive. So there's low level hive, right? Very, very weird, low level, dark, or even just, and there's high. Now, if you look at Buddha, right? One of the things that he used to talk about is to be part of the great ocean of consciousness, right? Which hive, meaning you are one now with the all, right? Now, what's interesting about you are one with the all is there's this dynamic. Many of us, let's be honest, okay? Let's just stop acting like kumbaya. One of the things we don't want to miss out on is we love the nectar of these incarnates. We don't love the infrastructure. The infrastructure is a deal breaker for many of you. I know that it's for me too. But we love the nectar of the wind on our skin, of food, of sex, of connection with our beloved, of laughter, of seeing a child born, a baby born, of seeing life going through its evolution, and of the incredible diversity of our particular planet. The fact that we are hybridized people, there is no such thing as pure bloodlines. Okay, just like that's an arrogant trop shit meant to self-aggrandize certain people who have massive problems with their ego. No one's pure. There's no pure bloodline. No one's a pure anything. Okay? Except for maybe the reptilians. But even that has been used, as we well know. So one of the things that I came across with this particular Akashic reading tonight, which really blew me away, is that in the, and I hope to God you guys know about Zachary Stitchin and his translation of the Sumerian tablets, and how this has grown into, like, I think he has a volume of 10 books, something like that. So I hope you know the beginnings of our making was not the Darwin theory. I never believed in that shit. Never. At all. What I believed in is something else had happened. I didn't believe in Adam and Eve either, not on that level. But what was interesting is throughout these old ancient scriptures, they were telling us, they were giving us a sense of something had happened multiple times to refine the human race as we are today, right? So one of the things that came up, let me look it up real quick because I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly, because I had to write it down because I was like, I didn't expect this. Usually in my Akashic readings, I get past lives on the 17th century, AD, you know, in BC, Rome, Carthage, Egypt, Persia, China, other lands that I might not even have a country, and then I'll get starseed incarnation on other planets, typically, right? And one of the things that came up, hang on, okay, is, hang on, I'm trying to find it real quick. Well, I'm just going to say from the top of my head, because is as they were hybridizing us, okay, hybridizing us again and again and again to finally come to this level, the concept of mixing races, right, which is a big, big deal for people. I don't know what the hell the problem is. But when we are souls and we come through the womb of a woman, and let's say she's half Chinese, half black, and half Celtic, Irish, and then her husband is Japanese and let me come up with a Nordic and whatever, okay? That when that soul comes through into the womb, it's going to actually pull out, it's going to create an avatar that is going to be able to take from those DNA samples. In other words, the soul activates DNA aspects, recessive DNA genes, recessive gifts. Like, for example, some people in family lineage are psychics. You just know they're psychics. You guys have all read books on witches, and there's a lineage of witches and shit like that, right? Okay, very similar to that is some lineages have the shine. They have that psychic third eye energy. They just have it in their bloodline. It just is. That's just how it is. Just like some people have these wirings in their family lineage of mathematicians and artists and so on and so forth. So when you have multiple pool of one person carrying multiple hybridized bloodlines, including bloodlines from other planets, which we know is a fact, right? That soul can come in and start manipulating the avatar, aka the body it's going to walk the earth on, with and pulling out what it needs: tools, gifts, skill sets, looks. Because even the way you look is going to impact how you are perceived on this planet. How you look, the gifts, skill sets that you need for that incarnation so that your life can be at the highest level of integrity to your mission. Thank you. And that is fascinating to me. I never fucking ever heard that before. Which now chatters this whole aspect of, you know what I'm saying, that our hybridizations as a people, you know, is not worthy. It's actually important. It's actually what you want. And by the way, this is not something new, because as the Anunnaki were working on refining the humanoid species as we know it today, they were doing all kinds of different things that wasn't working. Okay? And I'm not going to go too much into some things because it's going to be very politically incorrect, meaning it will offend people. And unfortunately, with this politically correct world that we live in, a lot of shit is being suppressed by people who could actually teach us shit, but we can't because they won't go there. The other thing that I thought was very interesting, which goes along with the Rife machine, is in one of his incarnation, he was a Mandarin when the planet was 5-6D. This is at that point, the humans had been mastered, if you will. And he was a Mandarin, many bloodlines in him. And he would actually study his own blood to see, and other people's blood, to see how frequency, color, and energy affected the blood. Very similar to how Dr. Emoto studied water to see how negative and positive energy was impacting the water. He was doing that on his blood, literally drawing blood from himself and studying it. And what they did is they came in this particular society of Mandarins. By the way, I don't know if you know anything about Mandarins, but Mandarins are an amazing type of Chinese people who have this incredible faces, and they're like, usually all the men and women that I've met were incredibly tall, and they looked it was an incredible royal dynamic with them. I mean, they're like, usually the men are 6'4", the women are 5'10", and from what I've seen, okay? And I'm talking about Mandarins, okay? So at some point, they were airlifted from the, what we will call starseeds to another planet. And they had put a species, a race of people on one planet, another race of people on another planet, and so on and so forth. And it came, and they finally realized, and this was when they scratched the whole concept of just keeping everything one race. And they realized that to hybridize races was actually to the benefit of the soul going through its evolution. Because of what I just previously mentioned, And I think that's fascinating to me. There's more, but I'm working on writing a book, and I think it's going to be fantastic because there's a lot more involved here that I won't share. But suffice it to say that this is a breakthrough because it shows us that we're not just choosing a family for personalities or soul tribe issues, right? You know what I mean? Soul tribe connections. We also choose a family because we want to experience some of what the DNA will give us, the tools, the gifts, the experiences that we would not get from another family for a particular incarnation. So this whole thing of homogeneous mentality and things of that nature was thrown out the window. And this very thing, this is what I've been saying for a long time, that our diversity as a people on this planet is our gift. It's not the interesting part and the saddest part of it all is that the very thing that is our gift and our power, our diversity, is what's been used against it to divide and conquer with supremacy, dogmatic belief systems. And it's wrong. And it has harmed us. And until we stop that bullshit, until racism is completely squashed, we will not be able to fulfill the Hopi prophecy of the rainbow children. That was not a fucking metaphor. That was all of us walking towards the light and bringing many of us behind us and crossing these bridges of ascension. And bridges of ascension come when you feel worthy, when you've done your shadow work, when you've seen the worst parts of yourself in incarnations. In other words, going through an Akashic reading, hypnotherapy, the worst parts of yourself and the best parts of yourself. You have to make peace with those. It's easy to love the best parts of yourself. Who doesn't fucking know how to do that? When I tell people to do an altar of love on the northwest side of their bedroom, typically the bedroom, I usually say, get a picture of yourself as a baby. Who doesn't love a baby? Even you as a baby, you'll love. And then get a picture of yourself that was very difficult, at an age that was very difficult. Maybe it was 9, 10, 11 years old. Very difficult. Because that's the picture you don't want to see. That's the little child that wasn't loved, that was bullied, that was shamed, that was molested, whatever, however. And you put that on your altar because the shadow work is that. That's the shadow work. It's not a thing you do once a month with a healer or once a year with a healer. It's a daily practice. Okay? One of the symbols, I also get a lot of animal symbols when I do the Akashic reading. Okay? And one of the symbols he had was on his root chakra, an asp. Now, an asp is a snake that is poisonous. As a matter of fact, the irony of that is that the asp is what Cleopatra used reportedly to end her own, incarnation. And so this asp was at the root chakra, between his legs, as his root chakra, and was dormant. And the evolution of that was a milky buttermilk white snake, very large snake, that had sacred geometry from its top of its head all the way to the tip of its tail. And there was the evolution of growth. The irony is what he said was he'd been having a lot of dreams of snakes and shedding of skin. You see, when I do Akashic readings, I always get confirmation. Why was this important for him? Because the heavy shit of all his starseeds incarnation on different planets, Pleiadians, Andromedans, a race I didn't know, a race I did recognize, believe it or not. He was a race that me and my twin had been, and he's the only person I've ever seen who was that race. We were the same. So, again, confirmation for me personally, but for him to dream of snakes, and here I am. We're talking about Kundalini awakening, of course, and he's being spoon-fed that so he doesn't go crazy. But he is a very special divine masculine. Very, very, very special. And he has his shadows. And the reason why he's a divine masculine is because he's working on his shadows. I don't like how people throw around divine. My DM, is your DM in 3D? Then he's not a divine masculine, is he? He's a broken, wounded masculine. We need to use the appropriate terms for the appropriate situations. So when a divine masculine is working on their shadows of addiction, of depression, of abuse, of, replicating abuse that was done to them, and they're actually working, and they're hell-bent on help, that's when you have a divine masculine. Similarly, is a divine feminine. She's aware of her harm to herself, to her self-sabotage, to all of what she's done, and she's actually working on healing herself. She's doing the work, the journey. And it's a daily practice. It's not kumbaya. It's like, do you take a shower once a year? No. Similarly, you don't take the daily practice of healing yourself once a year. You do it on a daily. With chakra work, with meditation, with saging, with mantra, with journaling. Yeah, that's the journey of being a divine masculine, divine feminine. And this divine masculine, who's been following me for a while, trusted me. I was so honored to trust me. And I did not, he said, I didn't expect this. I go, shit, I didn't expect this either. And the way I do these Akashic readings to make sure nothing is corrupted is I do the 4 corners above and below, which is used when people do ayahuasca, kambo, bufo, and San Pedro and other medicines. I don't fuck around. I'm not letting anyone walk into my Akashic readings. I prepare, I sage, I do all of what I need to do. So that, and then of course I'm talking about snakes in his root chakra, and he's saying, I've been dreaming of snakes for weeks. Holy fuck. So the reason why my guides do that, something that benign, is to set up the stage. Which the stage is, what she's saying ain't bullshit. Because here, how did I know he was fucking dreaming of snakes? I had no fucking idea. But I knew there was something lodged in his root chakra. And that's what they showed me. An asp turning into this beautiful kundalini awakening of this milky white, buttermilk white, with sacred geometry patterns from the top of his head, the snake, to the tip of its tail. And it was a beautiful snake. And that's saying something. I'm kind of like Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I fucking hate snakes. I hate him. And I had to say that's saying something. I'm kind of like Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I fucking hate snakes. I hate him. And I had to say that was a beautiful Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I fucking hate snakes. I hate him. And I had to say that was a beautiful Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I fucking hate snakes. I hate him. And I had to say that was a beautiful snake. So anyway, so that was interesting. So our diversity, now I've told you this before, I've done hypnotherapy sessions with clients who have gone back into other past lives, onto other planets, where everything was pasteurized. Everything was, it was arid land or a blue planet, and it all looked the same, and the people looked the same, kind of like Avatar, but worse. Worse meaning more pasteurized, okay? And so there are planets like us that don't have this fucked up infrastructure that we're struggling with, which is wrong. 9 to 5, paying to live, all the things that you are rebelling against physically, emotionally, mentally. You're not fucking crazy, my friend. It shows intelligence. Yeah, there's something wrong. You're right, there is. And this is why I've been pushing certain movies so you guys watch them, so you can actually learn how we were brainwashed to accept shit that was always unacceptable, always. And how the mechanics of our DNA and how we do have reptilian bloodlines. And this is known. Billy Carson talks about it. Some, of course, I'm not going to go too much into it because it's very politically incorrect. But David Icke is the master of telling you who's the real reptilian MFers in the 1%. He's the master of that. He's been doing this since the 1980s, actually early 90s. But I won't go into that because there are better people that can explain it to you in ways that are much more comprehensive. And that's why I throw out names, because I want you to have other resources so you can learn what I've learned through my twins' knowledge, through my own dynamics of meditating and connecting with the Galactic Council and connecting with my twin, my guide. Recently, and you learn, the more you know, the less you know. The more you know, the less you know. There's nothing wrong with that. We learn from each other. I learn from my clients every day. And so, so the fact that he was, it just blew my mind, because I don't know if you guys have heard of the Rife machine, okay? The Rife machine was a machine that came out, I forgot, I think 1910, 1920. And Rife created a machine that had a frequency sound that would eradicate the big C in your cells, the big C. And that machine was destroyed. There's people that say that they've been able to recreate the machine. It's up for grabs. But to see this incarnation where this man was studying his own blood to see how frequency and sound, how it impacted the blood. This, you know what I mean? The way Dr. Emoto studied water and how negative and positive energy, it blew my mind. Because I was like, wait, he's learning how to, because he was learning how to be, he was learning, the best way I'm going to call it is Shaolin tricks, running in the snow, standing on his head for an hour. He was an herbalist, and he was studying healing, massive healing. And it reminds me of my son who at 8 years old did a drawing, a painting of a nanobot. Now, in 2008, people weren't talking about nano anything. Trust me, I remember. So he told me this little nanobot was a vaccine that you could actually, and it had a little nanobot that would actually attack all the C cells, not the healthy cells. He was 8. It was a download. And we're going to be looking at that kind of technology so that we're not using the other C word that really harms people, where they lose all their hair and some people don't even survive the fucking treatment. You get what I'm saying? And I know this because I've talked to a lot of nurses and doctors, okay, that are cutting edge thinkers. And we all agree, okay? So my point to you is that why is an Akashic reading so important? The more I do them, the more I'm blown away by what's coming up. The more I'm realizing the many realities that we have not even tapped into. And when I combine those things with hypnotherapy, and I'm getting different clients from all over the world, different religious backgrounds, whatever, right, okay? Culture difference, race difference, all that. And they come up with like past lives on other planets and with different species of humanoids or whatever. Sometimes not even humanoids, by the way. And they realize, they're like, was that real? Did it feel real? Yeah, it felt really real. You think you could make that shit up in like 5 minutes? No. Complex stuff coming out of, it's incredible. Because as much as we know about, the nature of Anunnakis, reptilians, draconians, I'm using a lot of words, Andromedans, Pleiadians, Orions, Sirians, blah, 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 okay? There's still more we don't know. And it is hidden in ourselves. The light codes of these past incarnations, where some of these species are still alive today, and some not, by the way. Some did get genoed, but some are still, out there somewhere. In other words, there are ancestors. Do you get that? So this idea of, the disclosure and the CIA and who gives a fuck? It's in your head right now. It's not in your head. It's in your consciousness. And you got to hack out of your brain to find those answers, because when they download certain incarnations, like I said to a couple lives back, I said, I've only had 2 famous incarnations, 2 in the entire incarnations. One was the father of my son, and one was a woman this year. She's a famous general. They study this general today at West Point. And it's not Alexander the Great. Why is this important? Why are certain incarnations important? Because it's saying you're playing fucking small. Are you fucking crazy? What are you doing pumping gas? What are you doing dropping out of school, out of science? What are you doing X, Y, and Z? What are you doing? And what's interesting is that this divine masculine who I work with tonight has a twin flame. And he's becoming transcendental and realizing that his mission, no matter what, continues with or without her. That's bravo. That's exactly where you want to be. And the irony of ironies is that is what brings your twin to you. That's the irony of ironies. You see what I'm saying? And so hang on for a quick second. Let me see what you guys are saying, because I know I don't want to ignore you at all. I'm just looking. Did anybody say anything? No. Okay, got it. So any questions or comments on that? Does anybody have any questions or comments on that particular conversation that we're having about you guys are playing small? I'm playing small, by the way. We need to constantly brainwash ourselves out of the brainwashing, hack ourselves out of our head, our 3D space. We are not 3D sentient beings. We are having this, what they call a human experience. We are not in our in our truest sense of the word, we are multidimensional beings who have squeezed ourselves in these bodies with these 3D clunky brains that we can hack into an awakening. What do they say? We only use 15% of our brains. What do they say? We have junk DNA. Yeah, that's all bullshit. All of that is, as you know. I mean, I hope you know, because smarter people than me have talked about it. So I think we have an incredible opportunity to get real fast and to speed up our ascension with knowledge. And the only reason why somebody like me does an Akashic, and I believe in it and I know it, is because I've had too many confirmations for too much shit. Too much shit. Like I'll give you an example. And this is a small one. This is not, I was in meditation with a quartz crystal, right? What they call cactus quartz. And I was supposed to code it for Buddha, for Siddhartha, who became the Buddha. And it kept saying Yeshua, Yeshua, Yeshua. And as I was doing so I said, fuck, it's Yeshua. That's it. I mean, there's nothing I can do. The customer can either buy this crystal or not, but I'm not going to go against what the crystal is telling me. It wants Yeshua light codes. That's what I'm going to do. So I went into meditation and went into Yeshua, and I saw him getting married to Mary Magdalena. They're wearing cream and white linens. The next scene I see, he's laying on the beach, okay? And she's walking towards him with a red dress that's across her. Like, you know, you're nude, but you're hiding your breasts and your belly and so forth. And the dress is flapping in the wind. It's a long red dress. I mean, blood red, beautiful red. And I'm like, what? Red? Because you got to remember, it's 2,000 years ago. It's not exactly, you know, something you got at Macy's. Okay, so it's a long red dress, and she's walking towards him, and I'm seeing it from his point of view. And I'm like, still kicking rocks on the red dress, going, what the fuck is that? Anyway, I'm watching, and I'm repeating this from a few lives, but it's worth repeating. This is how the universe works with me to confirm my downloads. So I'm watching Freddie Silver being interviewed with by Regina Meredith, and they're talking about the Knights Templars, because I have a passion for that, because I was a Knights Templar, one with my the father of my son. Anyway, and 45 minutes into it, he talks about Mary Magdalena, because we all know the Knights Templars were involved in keeping the secret. Holy Blood, Holy Grail was the book that birthed the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. He basically stole the idea and made it a bestseller. Anyway, and he says, yeah, well, Mary Magdalena came from a high priestess, the sect of Isis, and they wore dresses. And I went, what the fuck? So the confirmations constantly happen. And they happen for my clients. They happen for me personally. They're constantly there. The trouble with the average person who's going through an awakening is they will get confirmations, just like I did. I'm not special in that way. I'm not above you. The problem is I believe what I see, you don't. Therein lies the difference. Because the confirmation is like, yes, fuck yes, that was it. I had a reading. I was doing a tarot reading with a woman, and you'll see it in one of my videos that I have about what I do as a tarot reader. And I was asking her, do you have beautiful hair? Like fucking a massive, massive amount of hair. Like gorgeous. I didn't know what she looked like at all. Okay? Which I keep it that way. Usually when my clients first come to me, I want to see what they look like. Anyway, and she finally, because she was shy, and she didn't know, I have compliments. I have hair down around my waist. It's a massive, it is. I go, good, great. Because the man that's coming looks like X, Y, and Z. So I didn't remote view at all. It was a download of what she was known for. Her glory is her hair, you know, and for her to then believe, because I rarely get what a divine masculine is going to look like when they come into a woman's life. But that was a direct order. This is what he looks like. This is what she's to expect. This is happening. So the trick for you is to learn how to not gaslight your downloads, and to also have the discernment of your heart chakra to discern between corrupted downloads and clear downloads. Hence why I do the 4 corners above and below. So I don't have any bullshit walking in and out. It is a tight circle. As a matter of fact, when you do medicine with a shaman, you cannot leave that circle. They will have facilitators. They will not let you leave that circle at all for nothing. Okay? And so that's a good shaman because you're protected. Once you're out there, outside that circle, any entity can walk in. Does that happen? You're fucking A straight, it does. In fact, that's why people who get drunk and high should never do it unless they call on protection. Because I can't tell you not to be addicted to whatever you're addicted to, but I can tell you how to protect yourself when you do it. Does that make sense? Am I supporting you in doing the addictive behaviors? Fuck no, absolutely not. But I'd rather that if you're going to do it, it's kind of like having sex. Here's the protection, so that you don't get sick. Any questions or comments? Let me see. Any questions or comments at all? No? Okay. Can you explain more about remote viewing as a download? It's not a download. Remote viewing is not a download. It's a seeing. It's almost like you are actually seeing. You're actually traveling. As a matter of fact, when they train people to do remote viewing, they do it with items like a card, what's in the envelope, is it a number 5, and they can see. Remote viewing is literally traveling to the site and seeing where the earrings are under the rug or the body of this person is here. And it's more like, it literally means what it means. Remote viewing. You're in your body, sitting here in Rome, Italy, and you've just traveled to Japan and you're able to see the room. And the reason why I don't get into it is because it is it is a spiritual no-no and a lot of people use it for the wrong reasons. People doing it like crowing about I work for the CIA as a remote viewer. I wouldn't fucking flex that shit at all. There's karma to be paid. There's karma. Because it is a spiritual law. You don't do that. If I get a download, I remember I had a client who had lost their wallet, and I said, I'm getting a download. It's in your car, and it's stuck somewhere like in the windshield or something like that, or it could be at the side of the seat. He found it on the windshield. It was a download. When they want me to know it, they'll give it to me. When they don't, they won't. Period. But if I force it, can you train yourself to remote view? Absolutely. It's a training skill set. As a matter of fact, the movie that Andromeda Flame turned me on to which I never watched because the title was so shitty, but now I know why the title was so shitty. It's called Men Who Stare at Goats. That's all they do is they train. So going back to the hybridization of the human species and starseeds, by the way. In one of my Akashic readings, for example, I saw a Pleiadian man who had a very interesting, but by the way, Pleiadians are always shown as Nordic, but they actually come in different colors. I'm sorry, okay? We need to be a little more expansive of what we're seeing. But anyway, he had this silvery tinge to his skin. He had silver hair, blue eyes, like sharp blue eyes, and he was marrying an Atlantean. She had dark hair and milky white skin, and she was wearing a long, what you would probably expect is a Grecian-type dress, and they were enclosed in a quartz crystal temple that had no windows, nor one door, and the marriage was the bonding ceremony. I'm not even calling it marriage. The bonding ceremony was officiated by a high priest. No one was there. No one witnessed it, and I saw actually the wisdom of that, because when people are in a normal marriage in a church, for example, you'll have all kinds of people sitting there, an ex-lover, a woman that's jealous that you found the love of your life. There's all kinds of fucked up energy bouncing around when people get married. It's interesting, too, to know that most people's marriages that have stayed for 34 years were married at City Hall. We're married on the fly. We're married with strange, they grabbed 2 witnesses and never saw them again. Have you noticed that? Have you? Because you may have not. But these big weddings for 70 grand or 100 grand or a quarter, whatever, they don't last. It's the weirdest thing, and I wonder. Anyway, going back to Atlantis. So this Pleiadian was marrying this beautiful Atlantean woman. That is a hybridized, this is a mixed marriage, okay? That's what it was. It was different species, a humanoid species, of course, that were going to have children. Anyway, when they were done with the bonding ceremony, which is what I'm going to call it, they came out and everyone was waiting for them in celebration. But the ceremony itself had been done in a quartz crystal room, carved. Smoky quartz is what I saw. Beautiful smoky quartz. and coming out, and they were bonded. And that was it. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question on remote viewing? Did I answer that question for you? Love that part of of his reading. It was amazing. Oh yeah, wasn't it amazing? I know, Beth. You don't mind me. It was amazing. So I think that we need to like understand that our strength is in our is the very thing that they've used to control us. Our diversity, and the diversity of the planet. So you'll see like one of the planets that one of my clients was airlifted to, 5D 6D planet, where all these homogenized one race were brought. It looked like Hawaii, basically. 75 degrees, weather, volcanoes, sequoia trees it looked like giant trees like sequoias, and waterfalls, and the beach, and that was it. And once they did that with various races of humanoids that they had, created, they realized that the mixing of the race was important to add. This is why I never got into Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, because he was getting corrupted downloads. You might say, oh, he had all kinds, like, 10,000 real, downloads that were verified. I get it. But I also know that he was a man of that age, with everything it means. And what he was saying about Egypt, I don't believe it. I had a client who was a high priestess in the Mayan culture. Now we know there are pyramids in the ocean, because we have satellite images of the ocean, the bottom of the ocean. We know that there are pyramids all over the world, right? All right. So here was this woman who was in, South America, and something had happened. I'm trying to remember. I'm going through my notes actually, because I'm getting prepared to write. But and then she traversed on a hovercraft type machine, hovercraft, and this is when Atlantis was still tied to the continents. You remember that, right? I hope. And so she's having a meeting with the Atlantis leaders, and all kinds of leaders from all corners of the planet are being called in. Very similar to what happened to the Andromedans and the Galactic Council. It's something that I talked about before. But let's talk about this. And they met in Atlantis. This is when the faction was fighting against the faction of light and good. This was like probably maybe 50 years before Atlantis collapsed. And she's there with all kinds of delegates from all over the world, other planets, very similar to what Andromeda Flame and I've talked about in the past, which is recorded, by the way. Anyway, let's move on. And they were put in a room, and they were unalivened. Boom, that was it. So the faction of light was destroyed, and a new rebellious force had to rise again against that. And you saw what happened. There was a deluge. And for many who remember some people actually remember the deluge, which is the tsunami waves, the earthquakes, all of what happened. And not all of us fell during Atlantis. Some of us fell before, way before. We fell from, as starseeds. We fell. And I say it all the time, from betrayal, from mistakes, from fear, something that we didn't know. The thing about him that I did this reading on him is that as a Pleiadian, he was not violent. Violence was unknown to him. Violence was like to harm something or someone was like no. So even though he was a knowing soul and he didn't have the wisdom of understanding that, and not everyone was like him, hence the incarnation as an Andromedan, to actually learn the wisdom that as a Pleiadian, he was there was a naivete to him. Now, not all Pleiadians are the same, just be clear. And then what he told me is that he has an incredible passion for helping animals. And the injustice of also what happens to teenage children and to human beings, which hark back to him being a Pleiadian. So how he fell was it's a more complicated story, and I won't get into it today. But suffice it to say, that was an incredible, mind-blowing Akashic. So these Akashic readings are not meant to kiss your ass. They're meant to, sometimes they're benign, meaning they're kind. They want you to know that you are playing small. Once you were this, now you're that. Why are you that? When you know you have a spirit of fire, a spirit of co-creation, a spirit of leadership, a spirit of kindness and compassion. Why are you playing small? That's why Akashic readings are so amazing. And I remember reading people's, I went into like looking at people's Akashic training, and there is no need for training, in my humble opinion. That doesn't mean you might not need it. It may actually make you feel good. I don't know. But I'm not convinced that that's what needs to happen. I am convinced that you need to stop gaslighting yourself. And I'm convinced that you have to have the proper protocol of going into the meditation and having a daily connection with your guides, with the record keepers. I have had a love affair with the Akashic library since the moment I realized the word Akashic existed as a 13-year-old girl. And at the time, you have to understand, there was no internet. All the books I was reading were books written in the 1950s, 60s, 70s by amazing mystics. And from there, I was able to learn a lot, you know what I mean? And also with my own downloads. Joe Dispenza talks about one of his massive downloads, washing the dishes in his house in Washington State. But, and it was given to him because first, he's trained himself to be a vessel that they can download when they feel a person needs it. The reason why you're not getting downloads to that level of detail is you don't believe in yourself. You haven't refined your training for yourself. You're not showing up for yourself. Well, I mean, if you're not showing up for yourself on a daily basis, how the fuck are they're going to talk to you? Let me put it that way. If you don't pay your cell phone bill, I can't call you, can I? I can't call you, right? You're not getting any phone calls. You got to pay your cell phone bill, correct? Okay, well, the way you pay your cell phone bill is spirituality. You show up and do the work every day. That's paying your cell phone bill. Does that make sense? And at that point, your downloads will be more and more refined, detailed, and beautiful. You'll be able to talk to, to people who have passed. You'll be able to guide them. Do you know that the Tibetans, I've said this before, but it might be worth repeating. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, there was a practice, it's still probably going on, where when a person dies, they would sit by their bed. I think it was like 40 days, 45 days, probably 45 days actually, and tell them every day. The monk would come or the nun would come and say, "You are not Jacqueline Johnson. You are not Jacqueline Monat. You are not this person anymore. You are free. You are this, you are that." In fact, some of these monks would even go so far as when a person was dying, of leaving their body in meditation to guide the soul out of their body. There are souls. There was a kid called Junior who lived in, I believe, Spanish Harlem or thereabout, or the Bronx. I'm trying to remember where he lived, but he was born 11/11, and he was being chased by thugs, and went into a shop that was a local shop, and he was violently, multiply stabbed, and he bled out. It took hours. He was only 15. It was a beautiful boy, just a beautiful soul. And I remember a lot of people were outraged at the crime, outraged as the mini market owner not fucking calling the cops, telling him to get the fuck out, pretty much threw him back to the wolves. And I remember watching on Facebook, because they would do Facebook Lives, where people were doing a vigil. There were candles everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Flowers, candles, teddy bears, you get it, right? For this 15-year-old kid that really was, he didn't belong in gangs at all. But it was during the summer solstice, and there were a lot of people who were, using the theory of conspiracy to see what does that mean. And there were all kinds of, I'm not going to get into that today, but suffice it to say that on that day when there was the vigil, out of nowhere, all those candles went, boom! They all fell over like an angry energy had collapsed the candles, and people fucking jumped back, went, whoa! And at that point, I went, that kid hasn't crossed over. And at that point, I started doing When the sun started, I was very lucky. I lived right off. I had a house right on the Hudson River, and I had a porch overlooking the sun setting. And I would put a candle a votive, a 6-hour votive, on the porch and light it and pray for him and sage and tell him to go home. I did this for 3 weeks, and I'll never forget it. On a Wednesday, as the light went out on that votive, because I would let it burn until it was done. He had crossed over. I felt it. So you might have those abilities. But the difference between you and me is I do it and you don't, because you don't believe that you have that kind of power. And that's not importance. It's helping people you'll never meet who you know need the help, because no one else knows how to do this, but you do. There's no self-importance here. I didn't go in the newspaper. I didn't interview. I'm telling you this story so that should this happen. I remember a client of mine came to me on a phone call. This is when I was working for Psychic Source. And they had a 30-minute call, and she became a client of mine for years. And she said, is my mother going to die, right? Well, I can't tell people that. I didn't do it for my own mother, much less my twin, as to what the hour and the day. Again, that's a no. But anyway, I said, you need to become a death doula. You need to get ready. You need to make sure that your family gets their act together, stop wailing and crying and screaming, so that she can, if that happens, she can drop her body. I knew she was going to go, and she did. A month later, the kid called me and said she went. And I said, how did it go? She said, well, I made sure that my father and my sisters didn't fucking wail and scream and all that shit. And we started reading Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. And she was very thankful that she understood what to do. Her soul, her role as a soul to guide the soul from dropping their body was to keep sacred space without panicking or jolting the person back into their body, to breathe again, a few more breaths to get out of their body and get confused and scared because of the screaming and crying. Instead of saying, you're doing a great job. You've done this before. I'm so proud of you. I love you. I'll see you again. I'm so excited for you. This is going to be a great journey. I'm so excited for you. I love you. Yeah, that's what you say when someone's dropping their body. Not, please don't leave me. You don't do that. It's too late. They're leaving. The body cannot contain the soul anymore. So these things that may be new to you, and these concepts and philosophies, or old, maybe you've heard all of it before. The difference is between someone who does this and you is that I do it and you don't believe you can. That's the trouble. The ascension of the 144,000 is a real number. Trust me, because we are dealing with people who don't believe this is how you guide someone to the other side. Yep, and Beth should know. Why, Beth? Let them know and then I can read it, because I won't put you out there unless you want them to know. But yeah, Beth would know. Beth would know. You don't do that at all. Okay, when I was with my mother and she was passing, I was drumming. Mantras so that she could leave. And then the body is still somewhat aware. There's an awareness. Well, the ego, right? There's a self-awareness to the body. And that's why you clean it and you oil it and you dress it. You know, I've heard people say, I've had a lot of nurses tell me that the person, like their grandfather, grandmother, or whatever, father, mother, and they'll say, do you want to change them out of their hospital gown and put them into something nice, right? No, that's okay. You can just take them. No cleaning them. No doing anything. If nothing else, just to clean them and put them in a tunic or a shift. If you know someone's dying, get something. Okay? Get something. When I knew he was dying, I got him a beautiful orange tunic and some things that I knew would be important for him. Okay? You honor, because they are changing. And that's enough. I won't say any more on that subject. But all of these things, where did I learn that? No one taught me that. It's primal. It's a memory that harks back to multiple incarnations on this planet, other planets as well. In other planets, we're more likely to drop our bodies as well. We'll be around for 300 years, 850 years and go, I think it's time now. What do you think? You want to go with me? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Let's drop this place. Let's go into another place. Where do you want to go? Remember that planet? Yeah, let's do that. And it's that simple. The incredible thing that I'm learning from the our amnesia is that we have learned, as I've said again and again, we've learned to be street wise. Remember I told you about the Pleiadian who was naive and he had to be an Andromedan to learn how to survive, how to harness wisdom, right? That's important. We are now street smart. That doesn't mean you're cynical. It doesn't mean you're snarky. It doesn't mean you become an asshole because you went through the conveyor belt of incarnation. Street smart means you can smell a person's intention, if it's good or not. You feel the frequency of their intention. In fact, you could close your eyes and feel the frequency of their intention. You could smell them, feel them. Your heart chakra will ring a bell, a warning bell. And this is something in many of our incarnations on other planets as starseeds, sentient beings, because we're so good, we were so pure, we were so childlike, that we did not know that other reptilians and other beings would actually want to harm us. It wasn't in our... And I know you can relate to that, because how many times have you said, well, why would this serial KILLER do that? Why would they do that? Who gives a fuck? The point is the person's unhinged. End of story. And toxically so. You don't want to understand that. You just know this is their reality. This is not mine. And so... similarly, this was one of our it was our Achilles heel, not a problem, our Achilles heel. Surrounded by these draconians that wanted power and lusted over oppression of any sentient being. And we would come across them not realizing who they were. Not, because we thought, oh yeah, they're like us. No, they weren't. They were dangerous and they were toxic and they were machines, killing machines. And so now we know better. And as we loop from the fall back from 3D and we loop back up into 4D, 5D, 6D, we loop with more power than we've ever had before. We can't fall again. It's actually an incredible thing to watch. It's like, wow. It's massive light bulb moment. You know what I mean? You had their hand and tell them they're safe and that they did a good job. Did you hear what she said? You hold their hand, tell them they're safe and that they did a good job. That's right. And isn't it sad that some people will not watch a person pass away? Call me when they're dead. Swear to God. I've had so many people say that. Nurses tell me that in hospice. Call me when they're dead. You have to have the courage to be there. Because the lessons you will learn as they pass are... you can't quantify. It's actually, when you hear of someone who has died at 33 in a car accident, it shakes the shit out of you. Because if you're smart, you'll realize that life is impermanent and that this too could be you. And suddenly, to live an authentic life becomes an urgent matter. It becomes more urgent than, doing X, Y, and Z to please your family or to please your boss or to please your community. You have to go to a community that would support you in flying high as you can, in your journey to self-realize. And so that's what I want you to look into. And that's why when you meditate on a daily, you just start, it's amazing. You can't believe how beautiful. And your monkey mind is what is keeping you from meditating for more than 5 minutes a day. And I would say to you, the monkey mind is exactly what you need to watch when you meditate. Meditation is not successful to people like me because our monkey mind isn't slaying us, and which is why we do pranayama and mantras, and sometimes even rocking our bodies. It's not the issue. The issue is we all have monkey minds as we meditate, and we actually train it by not quitting our meditation practice. Some meditations are amazingly smooth. Some will slay you and lay you out. And you'll be like a fucking exorcism where you have to just sit there and go, fuck, man. And trust me, it's not, have I had 2 minutes of silence? Actually, yes. And no more than 2 minutes. I know Eckhart Tolle has said that he's had 2 hours of silence. I believe him. Because of the way, the incredible peacefulness that he puts out. Everyone's different. Some of us are not going to be Eckhart Tolle's. We're not supposed to be Eckhart Tolle's. We're not supposed to be Deepak Chopra. We're not supposed to be... I wish I could give you female names. I can't... I'm like trying to find them. Yeah, I'm not finding... It's weird. I'm trying to... Hang on. I'm trying to find a name. The person that is probably a magnificent soul you would never ever think is Cindy Dale, who's written these incredible books on chakra healing. And she was incredible. Louise Hay was a very strong woman, and she she wasn't soft, but she was definitely feminine, and she was rooted and grounded and understood the power of thought unchecked and words unchecked. Very, very, I mean, she had analyzed the dynamics of words, what we allow our minds, our monkey minds, to say to ourselves. And even, like, for example, when people say, I have mental illness. Really? Why? Oh, well, because I've been told I was blah, blah, blah. But what made you, and let me ask you this, if you had a different lifestyle, would you be happier? What would you do if you had if money was no object, what would you do? X, Y, and Z, this, that, and the other. So do you think the depression is just depression, chemical, or do you think it's your environment? I think it's my environment. Well, then I guess you're not really depressed. It's your environment that's making you depressed. If you had X, Y, and Z abilities, would you be okay? I'd be fucking happy. Even without your twin? Yeah, because at least I could just fucking get my head together. I wouldn't have to worry about punching the clock. Well, then you're not really chemically having issues. That's right. So we have to stop the bullshit of letting people diagnose us with bullshit. Ask yourself, because there are some people, for real, it doesn't matter if they're sitting on $100 billion, they're still fucking depressed and having tendencies to want to end their lives. Okay, so I'm just going to say that. Okay, and so that is a chemical. It has nothing to do with the X, Y, and Z. But for some of you, it is an environment. It has nothing to do. There's nothing wrong with you. You just don't like your life the way it is. No shit. Welcome to the club. By the way, it shows intelligence. Who wants to fucking punch the clock, spend 9 to 10 hours of their life doing something you barely want to do, and look forward to the weekend? Is that a mark of intelligence to love that? No, it's a mark of being trained like a dog to perform. And you're not a circus trick. You're a human being wanting to have a human experience with the freedoms that it means to travel without a passport, to build your house on the side of a river, and no one's going to fucking bother you with licenses and permits and bullshit. You can, if you want to put cisterns to grab rainwater, you can. If you want to lay out nude, you can. If you want to walk on your property nude, you can. If you want to grow tobacco, pot, you can. It doesn't matter. If you want to take X, Y, and Z, you can. That's the problem. So is it any wonder you're going through depression? I mean, what the fuck? Because none of the things I just said can you do. Right? And the people who are really mentally ill, you're watching them on the world stage right now. Delulu making comments. What's wrong? I haven't done anything to anybody. We're the victims. Or hoarding billions of dollars. Those are the people that have been undiagnosed. and I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because what's up is down is what down is up, which everyone is saying. I didn't invent that one. It's been, and that's exactly the problem. And when you see what your shadows are, once you look at these shadows and you realize why you played small, what you've forgotten, at that point you'll have the balls, the kahunas, to go out there and jump into space and land on your feet. And you'll start doing bull moves, like trying to find a publisher, putting your fucking music on YouTube and saying, fuck it, Justin Bieber did it, I'm not, or whatever, right? And not a great example, but it's the only one I can come up with. And there are a lot of people now who are using, in fact, I know of a woman who, and I mentioned her, got 6 shaman drums from her, and she will paint her drums on Facebook, and before the paint is dried, will sell one of those drums for $500-600. Okay? So the old guard of the Andy Warhols, right? And the Basquiat, who became famous because there was a certain elite, what they call artist agents, or who decided who would be famous as opposed to not, is over. In other words, the days of seeing, and I don't give a shit what you think about art, but art is not a white painting on my that I'm going to pay $100,000 for. Art is what I'm seeing a lot of you create. Beautiful work, something that the masters would admire. I've seen artists who could paint shit that's so realistic it looks like chrome, or an eye, and it looks like the soul has been captured in oil or charcoal. That's art. There's a lot of things we need to reclaim. And I did a whole thing on artists, which I don't think I uploaded, actually, come to think of it. And maybe I should. But it was a whole thing on art and artists and you know, supporting artists. But I'm asking you to look at everything you've been taught to think is good and ask yourself, don't take my word for it. Sit with this. Is this true for me? Is this good? Is this true? Is this real? And if it doesn't feel good in your body, there's your answer. I don't want you to go and, well, what is your opinion? Well, let me read an article on that. Is there an article on that? No, there's no article on that shit. That's why they have journalists out of Vanity Fair going out of their way to write an article about how Twin Flames is a new age, mumbo jumbo, sick, cultish movement. And that's the only article. In the old days, and I've said this before, in the old days when an article was written, it had pro and con of any situation. Now it's just con. And then they made fucking TV shows out of that. Everyone got, these hustlers, grifters, who are abusing the twin flame journey, they all got paid. No matter what you think, they all got paid. And what is the agenda? To keep you small. So that you live your life, once again, small. So that you're afraid of your voice, you're afraid of your power, you're afraid of your downloads, you're afraid of the actions you're being guided to do without a second glance. You understand? And so as we ascend, one of the funniest things, I was talking to one of my friends who's a client / friend, you know, she's in Europe, and she likes her nookie, right? And she said, well, does that go away? And I'm like, no, it doesn't go away. It's actually more intense. The tantric sexuality of two sentient beings gets more intense in higher realms. Doesn't that make sense? And this is interesting how they kept removing the divine couple of the divine feminine and masculine from Isis Osiris, Krishna and Radha, Rama Sita, Mary Magdalene and Yeshua. And names I forgot, and so have you. From religions and belief systems that are no longer, that it's dust in the wind, not even, just a whisper in the wind. And so, why? Why is that? And why, and if I offend you, I'm not for you. Why have they taken the word woke with awakened? And there are two different consciousness of being. Awaken is what I'm talking about. Woke is not. The fact that I had twin flames out, can two men be twin? Yeah, of course they can be twin flames, two men. Of course they can. Of course. Can two women be twin flames? Yes. In fact, they can be twin rays. Yes. That's awakened. Woke is kicking rocks on who's going to fucking use a toilet in a woman or man's room. Woke is some of the shit we're seeing that is upside down. And if you don't know what I mean, I'm not for you. That's okay. But we better start using our common sense and stop being politically correct. And George Carlin warned us about that 20 years ago. He knew this was coming. He was a philosopher, comic. Very similar to what they had, those jesters, those incredible playwrights in ancient Greece that would be writing comedy and satire. He knew it was coming, what we're seeing today. The fact that they're telling 5-year-olds, are you a boy or a girl? Oh, you can be a girl, you can be a cat. I actually didn't believe it, but I had a client who told me that someone applied for a job, straight ass face, I'm a puppy. I'm sorry. There's a point where we need to stop being idiots because we look like idiots, okay? And if I offend you, I'm sorry. Use your discernment. Make sure you have a discernment. Make sure you've cultivated it so that you can see that we're being played. Remember Trading Places, the movie with Eddie Murphy, where these two 1% bastards bet $1 to Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd, remember? The argument was that it didn't matter if you gave a person an opportunity out of the ghetto, that they too could be successful. Remember that movie? $1. We're being played by people who think that way. Mark my word. And that's not a doomsdayer. It's just know the game, know who's playing, pulling the strings, and then do your daily practice. Connect with the light beings, because the light beings are connecting you to the life you want. Or you can choose those people, right, who are turning out to be, we look like, some of the comments I'm seeing by these world leaders, I'm wondering, are you for real? Or is this like National Lampoon or something? Is this mad? I mean, what is going on here? You want to talk about mental illness? That's mental illness in steroids. And again, I'm not here to be politically correct. I'm here to help you, as many of you as possible. I know where I'm going. Where are you going? You know what I mean? I started your book Recall today, and I'm halfway through. It is so good. I can't put it down. That is so nice. That's so sweet of you. Wow. I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Can you say the names again? I came in late. No, you can see the recording because I don't even remember the names, if you don't mind. One of the best 80s movies. Yes, it was. Not to be rude, I'll upload this on my YouTube channel because I actually don't. This image that you see right here, right? This is Bakor and Creo. And it's on my book, Recall, which is about past lives and Mesopotamia and 1997. They go through, it's almost millennia of separation. And it's about twin flames. And it's about how the past reverberation of betrayals can mark your incarnation today. See, that's why doing hypnotherapy and Akashic readings are so important. This is why I got into doing that as a living, because my heart needed to be of service to the collective, but I didn't want to punch the clock anymore. But that wasn't really the main thing. It was, I've always helped people. Even when I punched the clock, I would go beyond. So, but I wanted, because I've been studying reincarnation, Akashic, karma, since I was 13. And I remember choosing my parents at the age of 3. I remember distinctly choosing my parents. And so this is what you need to learn. What is my passion? So that I can make a career out of that. So it may not make me $100,000, right? But it's going to make me about what I made at this job, or maybe a little more, or maybe even more. And one of the other things I was doing, my first short story I wrote, I was 8 years old. And so I've always been a storyteller as well. So do what you really love. That's why I write. I write because I love it. I don't write because anyone's paying me. Trust me. That's not happening. But I get such pleasure. And when I wrote this book, it was based on it was an actual past life recollection. I kid you not. And it was impacting my relationship with one of my beloveds. And there is the concept of, and a lot of you understand, that looks like your eye on the cover. I know, my twin thought that too. He actually thought it was my eye when I first, because it got published in, when it first got published, it was the same cover, because I designed the cover, I looked for an eye, I looked for that couple, and then I took it to this guy in New Zealand who put the cover together for me, and it was published by a small press. But when he saw the book, he went, "Is that your eye?" I'd have everyone asking me, no. But what was interesting, that I loved about my twin is that he read the book in 3 days. And he knew who he was. He knew he was Creo. He told me, I'm Creo, am I not? I go, yes, you are. And when I wrote the book, I had been in separation with my twin for 30 years. In other words, when I wrote it, it was in 2012, and I did not come into union until 2014. My point is, I wrote, and all of the particular personalities of Creo, the way he made love, the way we made love, things of that nature, were the hot and cold, was very much the relationship until it got real. It like there were a lot of things, and I need to stop talking about this all the time. But the book will hopefully help you, Beth, in terms of opening your own past lives. You know, you might get triggered to start downloading through dreaming or just taking a walk and suddenly you're getting downloads. It might happen that way. I know that the sexuality part was very important to me. It had to happen because it's not going to fade to black bullshit. Fade to black is nothing. Fade to black is weak in a book, in my opinion, because how people make love to each other tells you how they see each other. And that's why, for me, no offense, I'm not putting... I loved the author of 50 Shades of Grey because she kicked ass and made something like over $200 million, okay? More than that, I'm sure, with the movies and so forth. But I totally admire her ability to make it happen. And she did. But within the book, right, there's a lot of bondage and this and the other. I mean, I read the books, don't get me wrong. And I just kept thinking back to Marquis de Sade. And when you read Marquis de Sade, like Justine and I forgot his other stories because I read them when I was 18. And I remember reading like 3 or 4 stories back to back. And I was like, holy fuck, no wonder he was being thrown in the Bastille. He could turn you out. That's how good he was. He understood the human psychology of the shadows of humans. The shadows, the repressed shit. And so if you ever want to read about real domination and submissive, read Marquis de Sade. At least read from the original guy who invented the fucking, the genre. He invented it, but he kept being arrested. And what was interesting about him is people were terrified of him. I'm not joking. They were terrified of that man. And so the French Revolution happened, and he was released from the Bastille, just so you know, because they needed room. So, isn't that crazy? There is a movie, I forgot the actor's name, something Rush, Jeffrey Rush, and I forgot her. Anyway, it's called Quill. And it doesn't even go there. It just does how charismatic and magnetic and how he can manipulate people. But it's called Quill if you want to see the movie about Marquis de Sade. It reminds me of my situation. Crazy. Funny you said that. There should be more books like this. Tell more of the book. Oh, tell more of the book. Well, thank you, my love kitty. So the book starts out in Mesopotamia. It's 3,500 years BC, and Queen Bakor is going to go to the oracle to see why she keeps dreaming of this, what it looks like a god. And I read, I think I read that too. I don't know. But anyway, because if you go on my profile page, you'll see little vignettes. It's very erotic, so I can't read those to TikTok. In fact, the book was banned by TikTok because of its content. I can't sell it on TikTok Shop, not because I don't want to, because I would have, but because it's been banned. I'm not allowed to actually sell it on my TikTok Shop at all. Anyway, and she goes to this oracle, and the oracle was the oracle of her grandmother. That's how old that woman is. And again, we know that some people, in fact, in the steppes of Russia, there's a race of people, of Russians, ethnic Russians, that live up until they're 110, for example. Okay, so anyway, she goes to visit the oracle, and the oracle confirms what she didn't want to know. Her king, Malik, in ancient Persian, it means Malik. I didn't know that, by the way. It was downloaded to me, the name, out of nowhere. And is her divine counterpart. It's based on a true story. Malik was actually, I use a different name, obviously, because the name might find this guy. He was actually Persian. He lived in Paris. He was married. And we met on the internet. And usually when the AOL chat was beginning, people would ask stupid ass questions like, what are you wearing and shit like that. And instead he asked me, do you believe in reincarnation? And the book verbatim talks about how we meet and how there are flashbacks on these lives. So it's a creative nonfiction, and it goes fast. So each chapter is standing alone, meaning each chapter is it has enough meat to stand on its own. Literally, if I wanted to do it as a short story, I could, but I didn't do that. What I wanted to do was make it so that it moved really fast. I wrote it with the vision of a screenplay. My dad used to be a screenwriter, writer, and I was always a storyteller. So I wanted the story to move fast. And to me, sexuality in a book is important. And so you get to see the difference between how they make love and how they F in the ancient world, as opposed to how they make love in the present incarnation, and the problems they have with their relationship based on the past troubles, betrayals, and of that ancient incarnation. And because and I'm so glad that guys like Graham Hancock and Freddie Silver are breaking the bullshit of what the 19th century anthropologists, archaeologists, Egyptologists, and breaking all of these barriers of what was said was true is a lie. More and more, these guys are coming out going, yeah, that's not true. This is happening. No, the Sphinx is a lot older than that. You see those watermarks? Yeah, it's older than what you people said. And so there's a lot of Egyptologists whose noses have been bent by these guys saying, yeah, you're wrong. And Billy Carson is actually adding to that, breaking down this 19th century storyline of, for example, Egypt and Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean and the warring clans and tribes and things of that. It's very interesting because we're a lot of things are surfacing. And because everyone has a phone with a camera and a video, no one can hide shit anymore. If it's going to be unearthed, somebody's going to take a fucking video of it and it will go viral. So the old days of being able to oppress knowledge is fucking over. These phones are the most incredibly liberating things that we could ever have dreamed. We couldn't have dreamt this up. God bless Steve Jobs. That's all I got to say. Because I was a kid around when flip phones were around. And before that, they were the size of a fucking small phone book. Okay? That's how big they were in the 80s. It was ridiculous. My father had a phone on his briefcase. And he could dial the phone. He had to plug in. It was the weirdest. I still don't even understand how that was working. But anyway, it did work. Yeah, we've come a long way. That sounds awesome. I like it. You write extremely well. It's intriguing every step of the way. Well, thank you, Beth. God, that makes me so happy because but there's trigger warnings, okay? There's sacrifice, okay? I'm just going to say it straight up. There's sacrifice. There's a threesome. But the psychology of Bakor and why she does what she does, you get into her inner thoughts as why she's doing what she's doing. You know exactly why she's doing it. And there's this battle of I can't afford to love this man, and Kriu, the conqueror, can't afford to love her either. It's like it's so inconvenient. Because it's very simple. I'm going to conquer your country. Somehow I'm going to figure out what to do with your king, and I'm going to. I don't have time for love. What are you, fucking crazy? And she's saying, So there's this clashing of wills. And then so is why I was using this image right there, clashing of wills, and the manipulation. And what I've always found fascinating by women in the ancient world is how they use sexuality to take powerful warlords and bend them to their will with sex. In fact, one of the most famous ones, who was a very high-class courtesan, she was one of the most celebrated courtesan in ancient Greece. Her name was Aspasia, and she was the issue of, she was a bastard from a well-born woman, and she was beautiful. And so what they would do, very much like geishas, it's really fascinating to me. And so what they would do is they would take these unwanted girls, from highborn women who had, done to do with the wrong people, and and see if they were going to be beautiful, because the one thing they wanted first was beauty. Then they would train them to be great thinkers. They would know languages, poetry, philosophy, and I think even politics and some mathematics or whatever, right? And so they would train them, and then they would release them into the world of banquets with these senators, these philosophers, these statements, and these warriors. And so she was celebrated for her incredible wit, her beauty, and her knowledge of languages, and she was an incredible philosopher. And she ended up meeting a great, great statesman and general called Pericles, and they became very famous throughout the ancient world as the divine couple. They were a power couple, and it's weird that we've lost the knowledge of them through time. I was fascinated by Aspasia, and she actually helped run Greece, actually bring Greece to a golden age. And there was this concept, because as you know, Greeks believed in multiple gods, and she believed in the one God, the one, the all. And she influenced Pericles on that as well. And so the point is, a woman's beauty was really her intelligence. Like Cleopatra is known not to be beautiful. That was a known thing. No one ever argued the point that she was not a beautiful woman, but she was charismatic and magnetic, and she was sexy. And I think a good example of that would be Barbara Streisand. Not classically beautiful, but you can't deny the woman was sexy. There was something about her, right? When you see her with Robert Redford, and I forgot the movie, there's something about her, And so Cher is a good example of sexy. The little crooked teeth, the nose is a little big, but sexy, right? So, you don't have to be pretty and a pretty little nose and a pretty little this and a perfect little that. It's really intelligence, and that fascinated me. The aspect of women being able to use their intelligence, their wit, their sensuality, their sexuality to crawl into a man's heart, whether he wanted to or not. And so the story of Bakor and Crew is that he falls in love with her. The conqueror falls in love with his conquest. Not a plan at all. And the fighting of it. And it is intense. It's an intense story. There's a happy ending, but it's not what you think. And the happy ending is because there was a happy ending. So, but, I mean, if you're looking for a book that's going to make you feel good throughout, this is not your book. If you want a book that's going to kick your ass, turn you on, and turn you out and go back again, that's your book. That's going to be your book for that. And it's a wild ride, and it is a wild ride. I was listening, Beth, when you told me you were like on chapter 10 last night, I was so inspired. I read chapter 10. And just because I wanted to vicariously read that chapter all over again. And it was interesting, But honestly, my language is there's a vulgarity to language. And if I really read it out verbatim, we would not have a channel. You know what I mean? I'd be turned off immediately. So, and it's not because it's vulgar in a bad way. It's appropriate. It's what we say. That sounds awesome. I like it. You're right. Thank you. Yes, sensuality. Yes. Sexuality, sensuality. Let me see. No, that's not how it goes. But then he leaves her. No, that's not what happens. You have to read the book. Makes me blush at times, but it's real. Yes, I know. I had when you get to the bathtub scene, if you get my drift, one of the editors, well, I mean, she was like she blushed actually, and her husband said, "Are you okay?" And he went, "Oh fuck." It's like, so yeah, that scene is intense, but it actually is a good illustration of the ability for Bakor to turn the tables on being treated like she was a submissive, and she wasn't. She ended up taking the reins back. If you read that far, I'm trying to remember what chapter is what. I'm at 15, got there. Okay, so you know what I mean. So you see how she turned the tables, right? And when I think of Cleopatra, for example, it's very similar to that energy, come to think of it. Eleanor Aquitaine, I talk about a lot of these women. It's amazing to me. I can't think of any other women in history. The only women that had me fascinated beyond fascination, besides those women who were soft in that way but powerful, were Amazons. And I fully believed in Amazons. I used to draw them when I was 8 years old. And then one day I saw a documentary about 10 years ago on the steppes of Russia. They had found what I'm going to call burial like rooms, chambers. That's it, burial chambers. And because it's so fucking cold up there, they found there was a particular warrior who had a tattoo that was amazing, which I ended up drawing in my breast cancer series. It was it was like one breast. Now, you know they used to lop their left breast off to become better archers, right? So anyway, this warrior had this long hair, and she was slim, and she had all her weapons with her, and her favorite clothes apparently, and her jewelry. And there was no doubt, they said she was a warrior. She was a Amazon. And they do talk about it. And I think it was Plato. I'm trying to remember if it was Plato or Homer who wrote about Amazons being real. So we did have Amazons. It's not a myth. And so here we have women who were equal to men, you know. And in fact, I mentioned in the book, by the way, I just remembered, it's mentioned in the book. So there was a race of people. I was writing the book, and I was remembering everything I had gone through with Malik, right? While we were talking. And one of the downloads was, how the fuck did these men come into Persia? Who were these men that were these gigantic 6'3", 4, 5 men that came into her land? And that's where I came up with the line, tall as the cedars of Besh Hadem. And I looked it up finally after I finished the book. I wrote it. I looked it up and I went, holy fuck. And in ancient Mesopotamia, there was a race of men of that size. I don't know what happened to them, but I can't tell you anything more. All I know is that they were known to have a pale hair and pale eyes. Different eyes, like blue, green, gray, that kind of thing. And pale hair, meaning blonde, light brown, and so forth. And probably light auburn, things of that nature. And they were a real people, a real men. Yeah, I love that line about tall as cedars. Yeah, they were tall as the cedars of Besh Hadem. So I hope that this book is going to help people realize the complexity of our current relationships, and that there's no mistake when you're having problems with your twin flame or your high-level soulmate. If you're not with your twin flame, you're probably with your high-level soulmate. If you're in separation with your high-level soulmate, this is why you get so many people who are in love with two people. It's a nightmare. It's like I was going through that to myself. That's why when I first started doing my videos on when your person's married to another person, like why the fuck is this happening? Well, typically it's because the marriage has some dings, or the marriage you're in is toxic. Sometimes you're not married to your high-level soulmate. You're married to your karmic, what people call karmic. We all have karma, every single one of us. So I hate that term, but for to express it succinctly, but I can tell you I was married to my high-level soulmate. Why do I know that? Well, because I had past life incarnations. In fact, I was going to do a volume 2 and volume 3 of Anima and Animus series, because in one of the incarnations that I had with my high-level soulmate, I was his brother in an ancient land in Carthage. And that was important. We used to talk about all the time. Once he accepted that he was that person, because it took him 3 years to say, okay, I give up. And part of the reason why he gave up was that the name of the person that is never mentioned was his wife, Emily, and he knew her name. I'm not going to say the name, actually. He knew her name, and he had called it out in a dream when he was sleeping with me. I heard him say that name. I could tell you stories upon stories. But anyway, long story short, and one day I bought a book by Harold Lamb, and I said, there's her name. He went, what the fuck? What? And there it was. I go, so now do you believe that you were that person? And he's like, yeah. I go, do you think they are giving you that information so that you're going to fuck this up? And or to kiss your ass? He goes, no. And unfortunately, sometimes remembering who you are, and the reason why sometimes it's not given to you who you were in some aspects is because it's going to fuck you up. So what they give you is what you need to know. How he found out was from his own excavation, and through what they call sleep paralysis, believe it or not. And in the sleep paralysis, I will tell you the story because it's an amazing story. So he was sleeping and he was going through that. And he was apparently he was trying to touch me with his thumb because he couldn't move anything else. And he was touching me through the thumb on my, and that I wasn't waking up because when I sleep like a baby. I hate to say it, but anyway, what woke me up was that he was moaning and groaning. And I was just, you don't want to wake people up too hard. At least that's my way. I don't just shake them. I just put my hand on his shoulder. But he howled. And out of that howling came the voice of a woman and his own. I was like, what the fuck? I went, baby, wake up. It's okay. Baby, wake up. And he was just howling. Again, the voice of a woman and his voice. And when he finally sat up and running, he was like, what the fuck, man? I've been trying to ask you. And he was like freaking out because he'd been through sleep paralysis. And he was panicked. And he described what he had seen, which was a man of Arabic, a tall man, not tall, but 6 foot, and olive skin on a slab of marble with a material across his hips and weird emblematics around his arms and around his neck. Like not jewelry, but totem pieces. And he said he had a black beard. And so everything pointed to something but I said, I just heard a woman coming. I mean, it was two voices coming out of one throat. Now I know there are people that actually can sing like that, believe it or not, where they can actually sing. It's called harmonium, and it's a singing style. And I wish I could tell you the person who teaches that, but she's a vocalist, teacher in London. And Regina Meredith interviewed her. And you know what? This is coming. I'm just downloading some information. I wish I could tell you who she was, but it was when she did all her shows in London. She interviewed David Icke, and she interviewed this incredible. She must have been a beautiful woman when she was young, because when somebody's 60 and you go, wow, she must have been a fucking hottie. But she was incredibly, these big, limpid eyes that had so much power and soul. And she had a cold. And she sang, and I heard the voice split into two voices coming. I almost like, what the it's, we are so extraordinary as human beings, and we have a whole world to see, and we're so busy watching the Alphabet Channel and the bullshit and the Sunday Night Football and the soccer and the tennis match of the Wimbledon, when we should be watching Gaia and other people who are so, like Matthias Di Stefano, David Icke. Please watch him. Please go on his website and watch him. Watch his interviews. He was pulled down during COVID. All his entire work gone. So I want you to watch him, because he will tell you, and it might be very woohoo to you. Good. Blow your own mind so that you can actually wake up. So you can wake up and see how we have been dumbed down, not just in public schools and private schools, but in our society's way of creating the egregore of fear to keep us playing small, right? And so when you read this book, I love to listen to Icelandic kuning. It's mesmerizing. How cool is that? What it is when the two voices? That's really cool. Yeah, I love primal singing so much, and so forth. So when you read this book, hopefully, when you read Recall, it's going to, because I had a friend of mine who actually read the manuscript before I had it, published. And she was this beautiful Filipina girl. Whenever she would break up with a man, right, it was bad, she'd always have hair down to her ass or waist, whatever, and she'd shave it all off. I swear to God. That was her way of just grieving. She was like intense and intensely beautiful. And I said, I'd like you to read my manuscript and tell me what you thought and what you think I should do. Because at that point I was giving my manuscript. I gave it to like 2 people. She was one of them. And she said, I read your fucking manuscript. Oh my God. Okay. And she said, I had a dream of being a Chinese concubine where they broke my feet in half to you know what they do, right? They break your feet in half so that you can actually have tiny feet. That was the mark of beauty, right? And she said, I was terrified. We were being conquered. I couldn't even walk. And she said, I I'm a, you know how I dance, right, Tony? I'm a dancer. I go, yeah. She goes, I've been having problems with my knees, my ankles, and my feet, and it's gone. I'm going to India to do because I hadn't seen her for like months. I'm doing a tour for dancing. I was having problems with my feet, and your book, I don't know what it is, it brought a memory back of what the problem was, and it's in a way, it's almost like she had a download. It's very similar to what happened in hypnotherapy, is that when you remember a past life that has very massive trauma that's affecting you somatically, once you know what it is, it goes away. I used to have panic attacks, went to my hypnotherapist. This is before I became a hypnotherapist. Went to her, and I kept having a fear of somebody coming in and taking me away. I was having panic for fucking, I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with me? And went in, turns out I was a 19-year-old Russian boy, poor, and I was pulled out by the Bolshevik, and I was unalivened. So the minute I realized that the panic attacks, I'm not kidding, I haven't had a panic attack since. It's been like, what, how long? 25 years. 25, no panic attacks at all. Lo, that's me. I cut my hair or do something drastic. Exactly. I know. Past life. Exactly. So past life, the reason why we hypnotherapists believe in this modality of healing is because we know that whatever is brought to you, you're supposed to heal it. Like I had a client who, and I talk about her a lot, but she did not have starseed incarnations. That's not to say she didn't have any incarnations as a starseed, though it's possible she didn't. But she had problems with men. And finally, in one incarnation in the 18th century, it looked like Scotland, early 18th century. She was a girl, 12. Her father was a sailor. He would come every 6 months or whatever, and bring her gifts. He loved her. He treated her like an equal. This is during the height of misogyny, if you can imagine. And her father was a good man. The next incarnation, she was in 18th century France, around 1880s, 1890s, a farmer, married to a beautiful little blonde woman. That was his wife, because now she was he. And she was a good man. So the incarnation was all about understanding that not only did good men exist, but she was a good man. When you see yourself as a different gender in these past lives, it's very important, because now it gives you, this is why I don't have hate with men. This is why I don't hate women. I just hate assholes, period. And that's different. It's not the same. And so because of that, it makes me more fair with the genders. I just know that some of the behavior is gender induced by dogma and by old, toxic, disgusting, what I call the Playboy Mansion generation of philosophies. But for the most part, I think that if more of us believed in reincarnation, more of us would be responsible in our behaviors, right? Because we would have known, hey, I've been a woman. I've been a man. My son had told me the reason I had many incarnations as a woman. I was fucked over by my men, and I came back as a man so I could fucking not deal with that shit again. And he's learning how to be a good man for himself, but also for whoever is his future beloved. The mother of his kids, that kind of thing. So these things are very, very important. Very, very important, okay, to explore. And that's why people go, well, how do I heal? And where do I do? And I'm just so overwhelmed. How do I heal? How you heal is you do what I've been saying, which is meditation, chakra work, mantras, pranayama, and then seeking hypnotherapy, Akashic readings, Reiki sessions, sweetest massages with high vibrational music, and getting all your lymphatic system, releasing all this toxicity that you're holding on to. If you're celibate, you need a massage once a month, at least once a month. Okay? So that your body knows it's being loved. Okay? So that your body knows that it's okay. I love you. I remember, unfortunately, I live in the middle of fucking nowhere, so I can't get to anyone. But when I did, I had a friend who was a Reiki master, also masseuse, and I remember having a 60-minute massage from her, and I thought I was fucking blissed the fuck out. That lasted me for 24 hours. I was my whole body went, whew. I mean, it was amazing. Okay, so find someone who has healing hands. Somebody who might say, yeah, I have a massage license and I'm a Reiki master. Perfect, you got it. Or Reiki 1 and 2, like, for example. They don't have to be a master. I'm just using that word because I was a Reiki master. I haven't practiced in a long time. But, yeah. Any other questions or comments? So if you want to buy the book, you need to go on my Linktree profile. It will connect you directly to my the page to buy the book. It's $11.11, and I made it approachable so that it's affordable. If you get the Kindle, it's $4.99. So, and the book is a nice, right, Beth? It's a nice size. It's not a paperback. It's not a tiny little book. It's a big, like, those bigger paperbacks, you know what I'm saying, that are bigger. So the font is bigger, which I think is important to me, for me personally. And it should be an interesting romp. And if you want to look at some vignettes, it gives more of an energy. But I've been really excited to like promote it. But last year I did not promote it at all. It came out last year and I didn't do shit with it. And I just didn't. It was the wrong timing. But right now I feel like I think people are ready. I'm seeing so much suffering on the twin flame journey that I figure this book, being a creative nonfiction, could help a lot of people on their journey. My cousin is a Reiki master. My stepmom is certified in PLR. I still want you. Yes, it's a perfect size, right? I mean, it's a big size, and you'll be able to read the fonts easily. It's not crazy. You don't have to squint and all that bullshit. Because some books I actually won't buy, sadly, because the font is insane. I'm like, wait, it's a fucking 9-point font. What are you, crazy? What am I supposed to do with this? So anyway, any questions or comments before I go? So if you want the book, it's available, and it has meat. I think it has meat. It is not, cowboy meets secretary from New York. It's not that book. It really isn't. It's just not. It's got a lot of angst and emotions and things that are. It's interesting because when I think of Creo, there's Daniel, who's much more approachable. When I think of Creo, I think of how those men still exist. My twin still had some of those things in him. This not wanting to be owned, not wanting to love at all. And there are men out there that are in this Creo energy, which is a conquest conqueror. I'm a sucker for passion and emotion. So am I. And he wants to own her, but he does not want to be owned. And those dynamics with the broken, wounded masculine is a real problem. And Bakor wants to love him, actually. She's actually wanting to surrender to him, but he won't allow it. He'll do all kinds of fucked up things, and I don't want to give it away, but he'll do a lot of fucked up things that you think men today have invented. No, they were doing that shit fucking 6,000 years ago. Still same, different century, different millennia, same game. And it's because love in the ancient world, up until the last 200, 300 years, love was something that you could not afford to experience. Why? Because you married for money, for land, for position, for title, whatever, and to breed as a woman, and to beget sons as a man. And so to love was like, what? No. The troubadours invented the concept of chivalry and love back in the Middle Ages. Actually, I think it was 12th century, if I'm correct, French troubadours. And this concept of romantic love was born, chivalry, for example. But until then, love was not what you did it for. You looked at a woman's hips, and you, in fact, hang on, I'm trying to remember, Spartacus, hang on, I think it was Spartacus. I'm trying to remember, what was it? Hang on. I think it was the show Spartacus, where this Roman emperor, I'm trying to remember his name. Was it Spartacus or... Hang on. No, it was the show Rome. Yes, I just remember. It was a show called Rome. It was shot in Rome. It was done by a British company. Amazing show. It's episode 1 and 2. It's based on Shakespeare's, and don't make that turn you off, because it's not. They're not speaking in Shakespearean language. It's based on the stories written by Shakespeare on Cleopatra and Caesar, and Cleopatra and Antony. And in it is a Roman emperor. Okay, I forgot his name right now, unfortunately. But anyway, he actually goes up to a woman who has a son and says, divorce your husband. I want to marry you. I want children. I mean, it's a complete contract. That's it. So people did that. And the concept of love would fall. It was if it happened, you were blessed, and for most likely, people would fight it. And those behaviors, those habits, still are waging its influence on us today. Because you'll have, what they call I'm going to say that in quotes, what they call high value men, right? Saying, yeah, I just want a certain type. It's all I date. It's all I want. And I'm not, I just want kids. And it's a very cold energy. It's still today happening. And so when you look at Creo, or when you hear of stories of Pericles and Aspasia, or you hear of Mark Antony and Cleopatra, which was a real story. They really did love each other. They ended up falling in love. It shows that no matter what, we've always had the capability to love, but our situations of survival made to love somewhat dangerous. You know what I mean? And all you have to do is watch Mary Magdalene and Yeshua and see that not only was their divine union bastardized, buried alive, denied, and it actually hurt us all as a collective because we never knew their union. Never. Until now. With the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found in 1947, the year my twin was born. Right? And some goat went into a fucking cave, and boom, the guy came in to get his goat, and there was these urns with scrolls. What the fuck, right? We would have never known. So it's extraordinary. So the more we know, the less we know. But there are amazing minds right now that we have. We're very lucky to have these. A lot of these heavy hitters right now. They're self-publishing their books, writing stories, doing their own excavation, anthropology studies, studying languages. I was reading a few months back, probably 6 or 7 weeks back. You'll look on my YouTube on the Emerald Tablet, and I'm fucking crying, going, "What the hell?" What? I mean, I knew about it. I'd heard about it. Don't get me wrong. But finally, I had the time, and I thought, well, let me read it live. And let's discuss it. And it was mind-blowing what it said, because all it is the light, the light, the light. This was suppressed by the powers that be. Okay? So anything you read, anything you do, oh, thank you, Diane. Thank you, Beth. Anything that you come across that you love, Renee, thanks for the live. Anything that is going to wake you up, you need to run towards it and not run away from it. Don't be afraid of being awakened, awoke. Here's why. Because you might think that, well, if I learn all this, I won't be able to do this job anymore. I will lose my fucking mind. I won't want to do this. It's like a Pandora's box. There's this fear of, if I go do this, there's no going back. Yeah, that's right. Right on. And the universe will open doors to give you a new way of earning your keep, your living. But you going from straddling one foot in 3D and in 5D and not being sure will keep you in a stagnant situation. If you go all hog out and you go, fuck this, I'm leaning in, I'm cannonballing. I'm going to cannonball into a new reality of my own understanding of self-realization, and then reading what's going to either give me aha moments. Oh my God, yes, I saw that in my meditation. Oh my God, yes, here's a confirmation from someone else, right? On a YouTube link, things like that, right? It's going to give you and bolster your confidence to keep going. And the universe will start opening its doors with a level of generosity that will make you cry in gratitude. Okay? So, any questions or comments? Thank you. Okay. So, again, I'm going to go. If you want to buy the book, Recall, it's on my Linktree. On my, go on my profile, on my Linktree, you'll see it. Hopefully it's on the top. I hope to God. If not, scroll down. It should be there. I'll take you directly. It's $11.11. And Beth, if you can, I'd love you to review it if you love it. I hope you love it. I hope you like the end of it. Anyway, and then anybody that wants to do a book club, believe it or not, in the back of the book, my publishing editor extraordinaire, George, said, you want to do a book club? Like you could do where people could, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love that. And so in the back, if you guys want to do a book club where we talk about twin flames, twin rays, reincarnation, karma, the loops, and all of that, and tantric sensuality and sexuality, I'll be happy to do it if you want to. I mean, I would do it for like 5-6 people, and I would totally do it. And we could do it on Zoom, so it could be anywhere in the world. Like if you have girlfriends in Hong Kong and one in Texas and one, it's perfect. We could actually do that. It's not a problem. All right. I didn't even think of that until just now. Oh, thank you. I love it, and I will review it. I'm really happy. I'm really. Thank you, Paulie, for being here, my love. All right, my love. So I will upload this video. I love that. Yeah, and let me know. All right, my love. So namaste. Love you all. It's probably 1 o'clock. Beth, you're always up. I swear to God, you and I are like night owls. All right. Much love, sisters and brothers. Sending you much love on your journey. Thank you, Paulie. You too, my friend.